Okay. All right. Witches, bitches, nasty women, um, angry. What I'm trying to figure out what other words can I put out there that articulate how women of power are related to. Okay, it's a very interesting experience. Okay, welcome everyone. I'm Dr. Venus, your hot mess millionaire, and today we're going to talk about power and voice. That's what we're talking about today. Okay, and I want to get right into, how can I say this? Well, what had happened was Senator Harris was called a monster. Now, if you think about it, First Lady President, get my women right. First Lady Obama was called a monkey. Hillary was called nasty. AOC was called a fucking bitch. We could go on, but you want to notice that whenever a woman of power speaks up, weak people try to tear them down. Has that ever happened to you? Have you ever had a time when you were speaking up for something that you believe is right, that you knew was wrong, and that you weren't tolerating it? And the moment you spoke up, all of the haters, all the naysayers started to slander your name, started to position you like you're an animal, you're difficult, you don't know what you're talking about, you're stupid, you're aggressive, all this stuff, right? And the thing is, I think every woman, not just black women, but I mean every woman of power across the board has gone through this. Now, if you think about the debates, if you think about Senator Harris having to say to the vice president multiple times, Vice President, I'm speaking. I'm speaking. I'm speaking now. I'm speaking. With a smile, okay? Because she's walking a tightrope. All right. And if you look at the resources that I've included here, I only included 5 because I didn't want to overwhelm you, but read them. They're really good resources around how women get villainized for speaking up and talking back. And be mindful of this. Polite women never make history. Okay. So what I want to spend a few minutes on today. Oh, and if you haven't already, please subscribe, Hot Mess Millionaire. If you haven't already, please tag, post, share these resources, especially if, for our women, we need to talk about how people come for us when we speak our truth and literally try to silence us. Have you not been silenced? Has someone not cut you off at a meeting, in a family dinner, on a date? I mean, like what you have to say is subpar, substandard to whatever he has to say, or whatever he believes, whatever he thinks is accurate, and you have to prove yourself. You have to defend your point. It's a very interesting dynamic, and I'm gonna tell you, Senator Harris navigated that brilliantly. So think about it. She's a black woman, black and Indian woman, coming into a white power structure. Okay, let's just make it plain, right? We have a white female moderator, and we have a white male. All right. Now, so right in that setting, we have race and gender, and I will even go on to say economics. Okay, in class. Okay, so she has to, and I want you to think about it. She has to be strong, but not assertive. Vulnerable, but not mushy. She has to be articulate, but not talk down. She has to be passionate, but not angry. Do you understand? Like the navigation of that is a ninja. Now, white men don't ever have to go through that. They don't have to go through that. They don't get questioned or even talked about in terms of their tone, interrupting. Like if you look at all of the commentary afterward, specifically from the right, you'll see that their commentary is so negative, that she was condescending and she was off-putting. She wasn't very likable. She wasn't warm. And it's interesting that they don't say none of that about him. Have you ever noticed that? I want you to. This is so important, specifically as we come into this the down to the wire for the election. Okay, and I did put some resources in there. It's not too late. 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 It's not too late to register to vote. Okay, please do. We got to do this. And so, but if you look at it, how many men do you know get criticized for speaking up? I have yet to see a man get dragged through Twitter for having an opinion, even if we don't agree with it. I was thinking about Terry Crews saying something about Black Lives Matter, and he got dragged by virtue of, starting a fight, right? But for the most part, men do not get dragged for speaking up, for having a voice. And yet, whether the woman is white, black, native, Asian, Indian, every kind of race, any woman who speaks up is stepping out of place. You see, she's stepping out of line. So I want to walk it back a little bit for you so you can see how this works, okay? So first things first, I want you to imagine for a moment that you and I, whatever race you are, okay, we'll work it out, you are living on a plantation in North America in the early 1800s, okay? And there are four social positions on that plantation. Master, white male. Mistress, white female. Maid, black female. Slave, black male. And these four different social positions are navigating for survival, because that institution was rooted in survival. And it's not, and everybody was threatened. So it's heightened. It's sort of like being on the streets. You can't really relax when you're on the street because you get took. It's just, that is the rule. Okay. So just take for a moment. Let's say hypothetically, you are a white woman. Okay. Now, if you're a white woman on a plantation, you are the mistress, you are the head of the house, except that your husband legally can beat your ass, beat you to death, kill you, and he can still have your dowry. Okay, the first slaves that came to America weren't black people, they were white women. They were white women. We don't talk about that. Okay, and so white women, that particular social position has trained them how to navigate white supremacy and white masculinity in such a way that it has it be in a lot of ways subversive, or passive aggressive. Okay, so white women historically have been trained just by virtue of North American social positioning, y'all. I get into this in my healing history class, online course. But they've been socially rewarded to be indirect. They don't come direct. They've learned how to suggest or speak in between language. You see what I'm saying? And so there's this whole thing. If you're into Black feminist theory, womanist theory, queer theory, if you're into the thinking behind it, there's this whole distinction called the cult of white womanhood. And there's rules to this thing. All right. First and foremost, you don't make waves. You don't speak up. You navigate the shit out of white men, such that you don't show up as a threat to their masculinity, and you get rewarded for your silence. Okay. And so what I'm pointing to is when even the moderator, did y'all notice how Vice President Pence just literally walked all over this woman moderator, a white woman? He had no respect for her or her position. He just steamrolled her nicely, politely, but he would not stop talking. Like her voice didn't matter at all. And she kept saying, thank you, Mr. Vice President. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. And that's the only option she had, was to say, thank you, Mr. Vice President. She had nothing. There was no other phrase in her arsenal of weapons as a professional woman to combat white masculinity. Okay. And yet, if you look at the tape, you'll notice that she was much more firm and cavalier with Senator Harris, who was a black woman who historically is at the bottom of the social order. Okay. So check it out. You have white masculinity, then you have black masculinity, then you have white womanhood, then you have black womanhood, right? And so it's important to note, and this is deep, it's important to note that black men got the vote, 3/5 of a man, mind you, before white women ever did. They got the vote. So masculinity trumps, no, let me say, gender trumped race in terms of voting. Okay. What I'm pointing to is, if you look at that arena, that debate stage, it was history being enacted right in front of our face. So Vice President Pence could say whatever he wanted as if it was true, with no question mark. Like he said it with so much certainty, God, I almost believed him, okay? Because let me tell you, white masculinity, white supremacy assumes, it's called an assumptive clause. They assume that they're right. They speak it like it's the truth. And because they say it with such confidence, anybody who's not certain gets swept up into their confidence. Okay? If someone's looking for a hero, they can find it in in white supremacy. Okay? And so if you go back and look at how he didn't answer any of the questions, she would ask him a question, he would talk about something completely different. She never asked him, she didn't reiterate because he ate up the time. Okay? And so now he's eating into Senator Harris's time. Now she has to say, I need my time back. Give me my 15 minutes back. No, I want to respond to it because he attacked my record. And she had to flex. She said, I'm the only one on the stage who is prosecuted. And she ran down a list, right? And it was important. And she did it in a firm way, but not in a way that can turn her into an angry black woman, because historically, that is how we've been positioned when we speak up. Okay? Now, historically, if you want to deal with social positioning, black women have been positioned as Mammy, as a satire, angry black woman, as a Jezebel, sexual, or as a mulatto, someone who's in between, who's confused, right? But those types of social positionings are navigated. And she was navigating satire. She was navigating the bejesus out of angry black woman. And you want to notice, if you read the comments, if you read the articles or you see the commentary, they talked about her facial expression. Now, you and I both know there's women of color. There's a lot of shit we can't say, but that doesn't mean we can't communicate it. Okay? So a side eye, a lean, an eyebrow, turn, all of that is signifying. That is what we do. And the commentary, including white women, they said she shouldn't do that. That's not professional. Okay, but they don't say that about Vice President Pence cutting her off, eating up her time. Because the social positioning of massa, of white men, is that they're right. They're right. No matter what. They're right. They are the authority. They are the truth. And no matter how bad they do things, because of the social position, you can take any white man and put him in that Pence place, in that same seat, and he will still be regarded the same way, and he will see himself as a god. Because that's what white supremacy does to white men. It positions them in such a way that they can never be wrong. If they do, they will lose everything. Okay? And so what I want to point to is, how do you and I, regular everyday people, regular people, okay? How do we keep our power when small-minded, weak people try to tear us down? It's a real question. One of the things I be with a lot, and it's taken me about 15 years, maybe longer, to be okay with being attacked. Okay? So y'all know my brand. I'm Hot Mess Millionaire. My whole thing is real and raw, authenticity to the core, blah, blah, blah. And I'm very okay with people not agreeing with me. I am. You have a right to your truth. Okay? What I don't have a lot of space for is people attacking me. Right? So I have a wound around being embarrassed in front of people. It's something that when I was younger, my birth mother, she was a very, very violent woman. And she would purposely hurt me in front of my friends so they would laugh. And then they would go to school and talk about blah, blah, blah. And I will feel shamed. Okay? And even though the physical hurts had healed, the embarrassment of being ridiculed had not. And I was doing something online at one point, and a white woman, bless her heart, said something And I lost all of it. And I don't remember. I just know I said my piece, right? My point, but the thing was, it was a reaction. And I went into hiding because I was like, oh man, I ripped her a new one, right? And so we got it all solved, blah, blah, blah. It took me about 3 years to clean that up, which is fine. But what I had to contend with was that people will attack me, especially if I'm saying something that goes against what they want. Have you noticed that people in your life, if you don't do what they say, they get ugly with you? It could be a parent, it could be a lover, it could be your kid, it could be your boss, it could be your client. But if you don't ride their train, that gives them license to talk down to you, to say nasty things to you. But I want you to say it as a woman. They don't do that with men. And they damn sure don't do it with white men. I want you to see the difference, okay? So what I'm pointing to is, what are the strategies that you and I can incorporate that are literally on par with Mr. Vice President? I'm speaking. Yes, I'm speaking. Thank you. No, something like that's comparable to that in our own world. So here's a couple of things I want to offer up. Okay, first things first. Help me say it pretty, God. Help me say it pretty. Train yourself to hear people as if they're not talking to you, even if they call your name. Okay, I would like for you to take the case that when people say stuff, they're not talking to you because they don't know you. They don't know you. They're talking to a historical idea that you represent. It could be their teacher. It could be their mother. It could be a former spouse. It could be the chick at the Wendy's market. It doesn't matter. They're not talking to you. Something in them gets evoked. Something gets triggered, and then they speak it in your space as if it's you. So if you think about Senator Harris and Vice President Pence saying what he said, any of the stuff he said, let me see what's one of the things he said. When he was trying to force her to talk about packing the Supreme Court, and he kept cutting her off. He said, "You're not answering the question." He tried to flex. He tried to get big on her. So he wasn't talking to her. She was the opportunity for him to express what he thinks is right. Do you see what I'm saying? And so part of what I want you to hear is, when people are not present, they're not talking to you. They're talking to what you represent for them. And you don't know what that is. It could be a historical position like Mammy, or it could be a personal wound like you remind me of my mother. And you don't know any of that. So because they're not responding to you, you don't get to take it personal. I'm very good about hearing people say whatever they need to say. I'm really good about that. I ain't got a problem with it because I know that it's their truth. They're just saying it in my space. Ain't got nothing to do with me. When I was university professor, and they would say mean things about my scholarship, because I've always been more interested in popular culture than academic culture. That's the reason I'm here now, right? And they would say things that were cutting, like it's not professional, it's not academic, which it wasn't, but I didn't mean it wasn't as valid. Okay? So one of the things I had to get really good at is speaking up without talking down. And I think Senator Harris showed us beautifully how to do it. She spoke up with no flex. Now, she stood her ground when she says, "I'm the only one on this stage. I will not be lectured." Now, if I had said it, it would have sounded like "fuck you, nigga, die," because I have an edge on me. She said, "I will not." She said it so clean. It was a negotiation, right? She was flexing, but she was doing it in a way that was digestible. And I want you to understand that there are ways to speak up without talking down, where you can actually say what you need without flexing, without the edge. She showed us how. Okay. And what I liked about what she did, and I know most of my corporate women will know this, I like that she smiled. And it wasn't a fake one. She was like, "Oh," and I love what she said, "Let's have a history lesson." It was adorable. Okay. But she was able to hear what he had to say, not have it mean something about her, but stand her ground when he had overstepped the boundary. So you want to start noticing, what are your boundaries? And if they overstep them too far, you're going to flex. I know if people come at me a certain way, the edge in me is going to come out. And if I can catch it, I teach my students and my clients early warning signals, very real. So I can catch it before I have to help them understand the Baltimore in me. Okay. And if you look at Senator Harris, she came in prepared. She was gracious, and she stood her ground, and she asked for her time back. She didn't just tolerate or make it work. And then when she really had something to say, she said, "No, this is important. I need to say this." And she said it. You know what I'm saying? And this is important to see. So I'm going to encourage you to start looking at where can you speak up, but not talk down to people. It's an art form. And the way that I have learned to do it is, and I'm going to see if you can catch this for yourself. When I have to speak up, this is the approach I have. I have to think of it as a sandwich. Okay? I'll say something that's genuine and kind. I'll speak my truth. That's the meat of the sandwich. And then the bottom part of the sandwich is an appreciation. Okay? So like, let's say I said to Shelly, I think you're brilliant. I love the stuff you're doing with hydroplanting and bringing that kind of education to inner cities, and for students to learn how to make their own food using water. I don't even know how you do it, but I love that you do it. So can you see I'm acknowledging something? I'm saying something that's kind and I mean it. That's the first part. The middle part is the speaking up part. And I want you to know that when you don't check your calendar and I organize my time in my life to be with you and you're not there, or it turns out that there was some miscommunication, I am over here worried. I'm stressing about it. And now I have to I took things out because I wanted to honor you. Did y'all catch that? Okay. And so then the last piece is, and I always put a request in there, but you don't have to. I say, okay, my request going forward is that you just let me know, and if you forget, it's okay. Just know that you matter that much to me, that I rearranged my whole day for you. Now, can you see I'm speaking up, but I'm not talking down? I'm actually pointing to how much I value her. I'm talking about how that I really enjoy our time together. She's a client of mine, by the way. Yes. I love her. And Shelly, I love you, girl. You know what I'm saying? She's one of mine, but she's one of my private clients. And so there you go. But the point of it is I'm speaking up. I'm not coming down on her. Does it make sense? So I'm inviting you to actually start looking at how can you speak up without talking down. I think AOC did it beautifully. If you think about that speech she did when she was called a fucking bitch by that congressman, I think it was Kennedy, I can't remember right now, and she did her 10-minute talk about it, and she said, I was going to leave this alone, and she framed it gorgeously. She said, I was going to leave this alone. I was going to leave it alone until he started talking about his wife and his daughter. Well, I'm somebody's daughter, and my parents raised me. Can y'all see how brilliant it is? She set it up pretty, and then she came in, and then she said, I will not be abused by any man because my parents did not raise me that way. Now, notice she's tying in her parents. She's not saying you fucker, and now I would. Okay, she's framing it. She's contextualizing it. Did y'all see what I'm saying? I should say we call it setting the table where I come from, right? You contextualize what you're going to say. You say it and you summate it. All right. It's just like writing a paper. Okay. But you're doing it with the intention of being heard, not discredited. Because what white supremacy does to its own, not just us, is they look at how can they discredit you so no one listens to you, and it dissuades, is that a word? I don't know if dissuades. It makes people not want to do what you do. It makes people afraid to speak up. Okay. But if you don't speak up, the world never changes. Right. So what I'm asking you to do, if you look at Senator Harris, how she modeled it, how she walked that tightrope, how she was professional, relatable, authentic, strong, and factual. She wasn't playing with it. She came with the facts. Okay. And while he said they weren't the truth, okay, so he discredited her. Well, he tried to discredit her facts as if she's lying. It's silliness, right? But that's part of the game, right? They will make women of all races look like we don't know, like we're not prepared, that we're hysterical, that we're emotional, that we're temperamental, that we don't know what we're saying. This is historical. And black women have navigated it by being strong. White women have navigated it in a lot of ways by acquiescing. And I still root that in the plantation household. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Okay. And every culture has its way with its women. And I will say this, I believe across the board, women are considered second-class citizens around the world. Honestly. And I'm going to tell you, I love being a black woman in America because I'd probably be dead in another country. All right. But even with that being said, the world is changing. And it's good to know the world is changing. In the world, we're progressing in a way that to have a black and Indian woman on a major ticket who went to a historically black college, not Harvard, not Princeton, not Stanford, speaking on our behalf, well, she said, no, if you're under 26 and you're on your parents' insurance, they're coming for you. I mean, that whole run right there is so black to me, okay? And it's so regular. It's not, you don't need a PhD to understand her, right? And so what I'm asking you to do is to model her. Okay, just to find different pieces that you can model. I love that she didn't say, stop interrupting me. She didn't make a fight. She said, really nicely, she said, Vice President Pence, I'm speaking. Do you hear the I am in that? Do you hear the power in that? I'm speaking, nigga. What the fuck? I'm talking. And she didn't have to flex. I would have flexed. I know me. And I'm so proud of her for not doing that, because then they would say, aha, she's an angry black woman. And then they would paint her that way. Now they're saying she's a monster, which I think is interesting. I'm like, okay, so now she's not even human. Okay. So it's really, you got to really, how can I say, not take people's attacks personal. And I don't know how they feel for her, because she's been in this game a long time. She's been doing this forever. So she's used to this, but it's taken me a while to let people have their opinions and not have it equal something about myself. I don't question me anymore. I really don't. I thank God for how I'm wired. I know I'm edgy. I know I'm a hot mess. I know that I curse like a sailor. I know that I pray like a like a monk, and I know I cry like a little bitch. So I'm good with me. I don't mind, people have their opinions, and the people who don't vibe with me, they're not my people. So I don't carry that heavy. But what I am clear on is that when you are a woman of power of every race, be prepared to be attacked. Be prepared to be slandered. Be prepared to be positioned as dirty or loose or stupid, because that's the same stuff they've done with us for generations. They try to discredit us, to silence us, to make it seem as if what we're saying has no credibility. And if it has no credibility, that means you shouldn't listen to it. It's the same thing they do with black men. When they shoot black men and kill black men, they go and try to assassinate his character afterward. You see what I'm saying? It's like, he is dead, and now you want to bring up his past as if that justifies the execution. You see what I'm saying? And it doesn't. But in their world, in their moral world, that justifies it to them. That justifies it to them. It gives them, they say, well, if he was that bad, it's not good riddance for bad rubbish. That's in essence, like, well, he's such a bad person that black people, specifically black men, are so innately bad that when you kill one, you're doing society a favor. Let me show you. He did drugs. He was an alcoholic. He was a deadbeat dad. All of that is to justify that shit to them. Ain't got nothing to do with us. And it's all white. It's all around really soothing white, in a lot of ways, white guilt. Okay. So my point is, you have something to say, and we need to hear it. And I thank God that in this season of human evolution, we have a Senator Harris to look to. And I'm not trying to put weight on her. You know what I'm saying? I think if Harriet was around here, Harriet told me I'll be riding her skirt tails too, right? But you have something that the world needs. It's important that you know that. Your vote matters, your voice matters, your platform matters. I don't care if it's 2 or 2,000 or 200,000. You matter. Okay? What you have to say is valid. And people don't have to agree with it, and you don't have to be neat with it. I believe in mess. I think messy is the space for creation. Okay? And so my prayer for you, my prayer for all of us, really, as women of power and purpose, that we walk with our heads held high, that we don't back down because the naysayers say bad things. My prayer for you is that you realize that on your tongue rests the future of history. That's how important you are. And my prayer for you is this, that you remember that God made you special. You're like a snowflake. There's only one of you ever in the whole history of the world. That's it. That's all we got. We got one you, right? That's one. And that makes you rare. So rare, when something's as rare as you are, whatever comes out of you is good. You understand? Like you and God are one. So God can't do anything but make things good. Okay, and you're good and your words matter. You have a lot more influence than you realize. There are people who watch you. There are people who look up to you. There are people who admire you that you will never know. But they listen to your word. They listen to how you talk to you, how you talk to yourself. They listen to what you're talking about. And they listen to how you talk to other people. You know, there's a Bible verse that says, life and death is in the tongue. So is reputation. And I don't mean perfection. I mean speaking up. You don't have to be wholesome. You don't have to traffic in the respectability politics. I was thinking about Megan Thee Stallion. She spoke up around being shot by a black man in the foot when people ridiculed her. And she's like, this is traumatizing. Y'all advocating violence against black women? Now she spoke up. Now if she hadn't spoken up, then they would have made another black woman being shot no big deal. We're still fighting for Breonna. We're still fighting for that one. Do you understand? So if you don't speak up, I say on behalf of all women, okay? Now I know there's some bullshit going on between white feminism and black womanism because of racism. And I'm gonna let that be for now. But for the whole of it, I say stand for your sisters. Even when they do some bullshit, take them to the side and talk to them about it. You know what I'm saying? But if you don't speak up, if you don't stand for us being powerful together, they will have us doing some some handmade tale shit. You know what I'm saying? And white supremacy is very, 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 very much rooted in controlling women's bodies, our ability to reproduce, our ability to raise children, even the funding to raise children. Okay, so it's not a game. So I am here for women empowerment, and I love black women. Y'all know how I am. I put black women first, but that doesn't mean alone. We need each other. And I have a lot of white allies who let me talk shit and love me through it, because what I'm speaking to is a truth. It's not an attack. It is lived experience that has shown us historically that white women have benefited from white privilege. And if racism is going to end, it's going to end with white women. Do you understand? It's going to end with white women actually taking on anti-racist living and thinking. And until that happens, it's going to be more of the same. Okay? So, and I will say this, and please hear me when I say it. They're doing it. Okay? So it's not the 60s. So I don't want you to be disheartened. It's not the 60s. Okay? It's 2020. And we are 3 weeks away from, in my opinion, the most important election of modern history. Okay? And I'm proud of you for registering to vote. And I still have the link here if you need it. And I'm proud of you for having other people around you vote. I'm casting my ballot early, and I'm going to do one of my Facebook Lives. I'm going to show you how to fill out the ballot. I'm going to literally walk through a ballot because I want to make sure we do it well and we do it right. Okay. And just know that your voice matters. So please keep speaking up. And even if they talk smack, be gracious and know they're not talking to you. And if you have to speak up, do it, but do it in a way that you're not talking down. Do my little sandwich. Be kind. Say your piece. Acknowledge. Keep it moving. Okay. And remember that you're the one we've been waiting for. I love you, sis. With my whole heart, I do. This is Dr. Venus, your hot mess millionaire. I'm going to end here. Know that you love beyond all measure, my sweet sisters in success, and the brothers who love us, and our allies. Woot, 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 woot. And if you were fed by this word, please share it. Make sure to get the resources. I want people to know about Senator Harris. I want them to see how the positioning of her as a black woman, how she navigated that. And the resources I put in are really very helpful because it's only 5 of them. It's not 15. You're welcome. And there's a New York Times article. There's an Instagram essay that's really good, really, really good. I mean, they said that. And I'm very impressed with the writing. So, and they're really short reads, and they're useful because they give you some context around what she's dealing with by virtue of her being a black and Indian woman that white men never have to contend with. And she's winning because we love her and we support her. Okay? So that's all. I'm falling back, God. I'm falling back. Know that you love beyond all measure. And I will talk to you soon. Please share, and goodbye for now.